Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hello, gentleman.
So we're sitting here dying laughing because we're talking about mooning people. And did you guys know?
Here we go.
Did you guys know I mooned a cop? And didn't know it was a cop. We were at my brother's birthday party. There was a whole bunch of us, and we were out toilet papering. My dad was there too, and we were out toilet papering people's houses. And this guy came home in the middle of his toilet paper in our house, so we all took off running. He followed us, and we thought it was this guy sitting down at the bottom of this hill. So we all lined up across the hill, or the top of the hill. Everybody dropped their pants. This cop, and all of a sudden the cop lights come on, and everybody scatters. And my dad's just walking calmly, just dying laughing.
That's so good.
That's my childhood.
Wow.
That's a great mooning story.
Wow.
No shame in that.
No.
You should write a little AI short story for your grandkids about that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Oh, I got so many stories, man.
That's good.
Oh, man. Speaking of being shameless,
Totally.
today we're talking about shame adventures. How to, realistically, what does it actually look like to combat shame when you're in recovery? This is a special topic to my heart because I have used it, and my dad uses it as well. We call each other, at least once a week and talk about the things that we're learning using this method. And it was kind of coined in a way by James. He's the one that came up with it, and he used this in his personal recovery. I'm just stoked to kind of dive into the power of this principle and how to escape shame and become aware of it.
So what is Shame Adventures?
Shame adventures.
Shame adventures. So
Because that just totally doesn't go together.
What an
Like,
adventure.
An adventure.
What an
like-
adventure. So shame adventure came from me in my recovery, recognizing that I wanted to develop some shame resilience, and that dealing with shame wasn't all that fun and thrilling unless I changed my mindset around it. And so for me, it was kind of in my warrior heart of well, how can I make this an adventure, right? An
Right.
adventure to live. So I just was well, I've got to combat shame and develop some shame resilience. And that sounds like a slog. So what if instead I imagine that I am Indiana Jones going into that super webby cave with all of the darts and the skeletons in it and the spiders, the tarantulas, And at the end, I can find the little shame statue, gold statue, and think that I'm going to replace it with sand and run out of there. And I might make it, or I might die. But that sounds like an adventure to me. So
That's awesome. I've never looked at it that way ever.
in the end, though, I'm going to walk out with the gold, knowing that if I have the courage to go into the cave and combat all the fear and all the what feels like is inevitable death going into there, that I would walk away with gold.
Wow.
So
So what did you find out, James?
So what did I find out? What I found out was that going on the shame adventure helped me recognize my blind spots and helped me recognize just how much shame was driving my decisions, was driving my communication, was driving my behaviors. And I didn't want it driving my life anymore. And so the result was the gold. The gold was that I became free from so much shame battling or driving my life and contending with shame in my life so much. Now, not to say that I don't experience that or notice it showing up anymore, but much more shame resilient than I have ever been because of my commitment to the ongoing process and idea of going on a shame adventure.
So we're just trying to figure out what's in the cave. What's there?
What's there exactly?
Huh.
Just go into that dark cave and look at all the tarantulas and the skeletons and those super sticky spider webs that would creep you out. Like anybody would be creeped out by those things. Because they're not the cotton ones. They're like the real ones. And you tell me, what have you learned, Sam, going on a shame adventure of late? What made you want to start a shame adventure?
Shame adventures.
Yeah. What made you
Plural.
start
I
some
mean,
shame adventures?
So I listened to that podcast that you did with Kurt Frankum on Leading Saints, and
Okay.
you talked about shame, the subtlety of shame.
Did I talk about shame adventures on there?
You did?
Oh,
That's where I heard about it.
okay.
Because someone sent me that podcast, and they were like, this guy James is a genius.
Whoever you are out there, you're totally right.
I was like, yeah. I actually know him.
You're like, I know
I know him like a little bit, just a little bit.
That's so cool.
That was like, okay, that's cool though. I wanna
that's
try
awesome.
that.
And
And
give me their
so
address. I'll send them.
I know for real. I will. Wait. I'll text you later. But it was cool. Like I as I listened to that, you talk about, how that's the ultimate tool of the adversary, and it's so subtle from the beginning, like immediately after Adam and Eve, the original sin, and like the serpent comes in and he says, "Run, hide."
Yeah.
The hidden message being God could never love you now because you have stepped away from him.
You made that big of a
and
mistake.
you've made that big of a mistake, and
Yeah.
so you're bad, right? So I was like, where do I feel that in my life? What am I running and hiding from?
Yeah.
So I started taking inventory. When I felt a real strong emotion, I would just get curious about it. I think that's kind of the key, curiosity rather than self-judgment.
Yeah.
And I just started taking note. I actually wrote it down. Like,
Yeah.
hey, these are all the things that I'm feeling shame about. And I ended up just finding a lot of things out about myself that I didn't. That's what's so funny. You're like, I live with this all the time. And I don't actually know what that thought process is that's going on in my head, but it's causing me to retract. It's causing me to run. It's causing me to feel insecure. And it's causing me to run towards addiction.
Yeah.
And so what I found out about myself was really two big things. The first one being I have a real insecurity and shame script around not being able to express myself well. Because just growing up, it was just like, I was always wrong, and I kind of got shut down.
Okay.
As a way to like kind of keep the equilibrium in the household, because I was such an energetic kid, and like in order to just shut down that emotion and not cause make that a problem, my parents would just kind of be like, no, stop, like you're wrong, you're not expressing that well, whatever it is. And I just over time I just kind of learned like I'm stupid and I can't say what I mean, and so I think I was about 10 when I finally just shut it off, because I realized at the age of 10 it was easier to shut it off and just tell myself that I was stupid and incompetent and I never had the right words to say. And yeah.
And it still affects you today.
Yeah. Because I just realized, like, I so often will say, even full vulnerability here, I'll say something on the podcast and I'll be like, dude, no, you didn't say that right, you idiot. And it comes back, right. And it comes and it haunts me in each of these different aspects of my life. And then it's really interesting, because what do I find that I'm going to porn to numb, or to the need that I'm not getting? It's self-expression. It's being able to feel like I express myself and I'm seen and understood and accepted. Right? That's the same thing. The other one was just feeling incompetent and emasculine in my relationship with women, not feeling like I was ever good enough to actually win a girl's heart. That was the other one.
So those are in your adventures.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of truths you have now found out.
Yeah.
about yourself.
And I brought it into the light, and like now I recognize it immediately when it happens, and I usually just call someone. I'm like, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Okay.
And it's coming up again, and I'm able to process it. It doesn't always have to be that way. I don't think you need to call someone about every single emotion you experience.
Sure.
But I'm able to address it now, and I'm at a point where it's in the light, and I'm healing from it.
And you're
And
not
it's been-
adventuring alone.
Yeah, exactly. I feel so much less alone. So, man, the shame adventure. I even call my dad like once a week and we talk
Yeah.
about it, and he tells me, how his shame adventure has been going. And it's so cool. I just feel so connected and close to him in that little thing that we do. So,
That's awesome.
Okay.
I think, the thing that in hindsight, as I look back on, having done that shame adventure and just kind of integrated that into a lot of my life, is I found that it helps me break through my own denial, and it helps me become more self-aware. Um, but some of the gold I've gotten out of that is that it has taught me that being vulnerable is not only like okay, like it's preferable,
yeah.
and it's connective. Um, it draws me closer to the people that I'm with, as I open up and can talk about with the right people, right, with the people that
Yeah.
will hold that shame sacred, or that shame experience sacred, and not like weaponize that. That they will often respond with so much kindness and empathy, and they'll be like, you know what, me too. I relate with that thing, and they're often grateful. So what I've ended up with is friends who like see me, know me, and care about me. And man, what greater gold can you have than that?
I've had a similar experience. Only one thing I've been doing is the first thing that happens now when I feel it come back and I identify what the shame script is and what the adversary is trying to tell me about myself that I've believed for so long, I immediately will talk to God about it. And I'll say, God, I'm feeling this way again. Like I'm not good enough. I'm not acceptable. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not well spoken enough. Whatever that particular thing is. And my relationship with God has improved immensely over the past 2 months. When I tell him that,
Yeah.
What I love about that is that you're going to God for your validation
Yeah.
and who you are and your identity, rather than going to your parents, to the women that you're dating, to a brotherhood, like all the places that we all try to go to get validation. And like we said before, if you give them the right to validate you, you also give them the right to invalidate you.
Mm-hmm.
And God will never invalidate you. He will always tell you that who the man you are, because he knows your heart and he knows that you're his son. And he's going to be like, yep, I know who you are. You are good enough for me to love you, even in your depths of all the crap that you're going through and the pain that you're creating on yourself, all the addiction stuff that you're going through. Guess what, man? You're still mine, and I still love you.
Yeah, totally. Experience the same thing. And to take that Indiana Jones analogy yet again, you remember in the end, the whole cave like collapses and crumbles in the end? Like, to me, that is what has happened to some of my shame places. They have completely collapsed and crumbled.
Oh, totally.
And they are no longer places where the adversary can get me anymore.
wow.
God has fully replaced that lie, that the shame tells, and completely replace that with truth. And so it can, in some of those places, it truly feels like a fortress of strength, where before it was a dark cave, like it's been collapsed, mowed over, and like turned into a beautiful building that's like super strong and a strength for me now.
So if you could like describe what that process is, kind of step by step. I don't know if you have a formula or a science to it, but what does that look like? I mean, you start with curiosity? Do you start with? I'm trying to figure out how can people replicate this in their own lives And how can I nail this down to like a science of what's actually happening inside of me?
Well, one way that I have found it, the most effective way I found to identify it was when I found myself trying to manage the way somebody perceived me.
Hmm.
Or, as we call it in boot camp language, when I was posing, like putting on this false front. And I would, because I knew when I was being fake or trying to manage how somebody felt about me or saw me. And so it was those moments when I'd be like, okay, my understanding of shame is when I'm trying to manage people's perception of me, shame is the ultimate driver of that. And so what am I trying to get you to see about me or think about me? So, the analogy that I often will use, because this memory is so clear, this was kind of like when I first started on the shame adventure. It was like the first time when I really like, oh, I got it. I found one. I had this, I was posing and trying to create this perception that I was really working hard. And I knew that that was false. And so I was just like, okay, I got to stop right here. Because why am I trying to tell you that or cause somebody to believe that I'm working really hard? Well, usually I'm trying to prove the opposite wrong, right? Meaning I had this script that I wasn't a hard worker, that I was lazy. And so, to combat that, I tried to prove to everybody that I was a hard worker and make everybody else think that I was, because it was too wounding to be called or lazy or be perceived as lazy. And so it became and then I was like, oh, I know right where that wound came from. And very quickly I recognized that, like, oh, that's a childhood wound right there. There was a lot of shame around that. There was a lot of making fun of in my childhood and name calling around that. So that was, for me, so the process of identifying where it's coming from, or identifying that I'm doing it, and then identifying, hopefully I can get to the source, and what the truth of what the shame message really is. And then when I am at that perception of lazy, then I can now start to challenge that with truth, actual God-given truth. So I have to put on my rational hat now and be like, wait a minute. The truth of that is that super not lazy. I work hard, and then, so that part's true. Then I have to question, well, so what if lazy comes into the picture? What does it mean to be lazy? Because it's implying that lazy is bad. And then I have to look at and then I apply some common humanity and go, everybody's lazy sometimes. That's human nature to take the easiest path and to choose the lazy path.
Yeah.
Everybody does that. So it's okay if I can fall into even some times when I should be working hard and I'm acting lazy, because guess what? Everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give myself some grace that there's going to be times in which I'm lazy, but I'm not lazy to the point now.
But that doesn't mean that that's your identity,
right?
That you're lazy.
And then I'm having this dialogue in my head of okay, logically, guess what? Even if I was engaging in some laziness, I am a fully functioning, more than functioning, high functioning adult in the world. And so if laziness comes in, it's not impeding my life, it's not harming my relationships. So, right. And then I'm speaking into God, now I can go back to now self-compassion. That was wrong, that I was shamed and name called, young, for being a kid wanting to play rather than do chores or whatever. Yeah. Right. And so now I can get back to healing the wound and inviting God into all of that. So you hearing all the steps in there?
Yeah.
Like there's more steps in all of that
Right.
to really move into the healing of that to where the cave collapses.
Yeah, and there's sounds like there's something about it that brings self-awareness and digging down into like, hey, it's okay. This is why I feel this way.
Yeah.
This is the way things have been for me, and this is the truth about myself.
Right.
It reminded me of Carl Rogers, I think he's the father of like humanistic psychology, if I remember right. He says first people accept themselves and then they change. And that's what I'm hearing you say. A lot of people would argue with that and say, well, no, like you got to take responsibility. Yeah, you do. But there's something about when you battle the shame in your life and you just accept that you are human and you are good, even with mistakes. Something changes inside of you, and that seems to have a real correlation with recovery and living with high self-esteem. So, guys, we want to hear how your shame adventures go. Like, I'm really genuinely so excited to get some of these
That'd be
emails.
awesome. I would love to get some emails on
I
that.
would love to
Take a
myself.
shame adventure in the next couple weeks and email us and tell us what you're learning about yourself. We want to hear about it. Thanks for listening. Head over to unashamedunafraid.com if you want to donate and become an outsider to get more of our content. You'll be able to access the bonus content. Follow us on social media at unashamedunafraid. Like us, rate us, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, remember to live unashamed.